So we were talking the other day about one of the hardest things to do as you start to spiritually awaken. Remember that, babe? We were talking about tolerance and not judging other people.
Yeah, basically like accepting other people's own life journeys as their own, and not like when you become aware of certain things. Thanks for that.
Sorry, bug.
When you become aware of certain aspects of the awakening process, you think everyone should know it, so you want to tell everybody, oh, I know all these things, and try to get them to do what you're doing as well, and like having the acceptance of like that's not maybe on their journey, their life journey path, that's probably the most difficult thing, right?
Yeah, that pretty much sums up what we were saying. It is, though. That's a legitimate concern, because it's like in the beginning, I mean, your intentions, I think, the whole time are pure. You realize that, wow, something's really changed within me, and it's benefiting me big time. And I see these other people who I believe could perhaps benefit as well. I can see they're experiencing some of the things I'm going through. And maybe I could tell them what helped me. But what we found is that a lot of times they don't react very nicely to that. And at first we thought it was like, wow, they're being mean. I'm just trying to help them. But really, it's that I don't think, it seems to me that people don't like being told what to do, basically. I think everyone has some sort of innate sense of freedom of choice. And as she said, that we're just living in a time with such a diverse amount of like soul frequencies, soul vibrations, and just a lot of people, they're just nowhere near at a stage in this incarnation anyway to be receptive to that sort of thing. It's like too big of a gap to bridge, and they react with like frustration, like, get out of my face, buddy.
Right. Yeah, and also like having the understanding of like, who are you to decide what's best for someone else and what's best for their life? Only they can choose that, and that's sort of when he started going through his process before I was becoming aware of like that information. I just had that idea of, who am I to say that he's not experiencing that, because I'm not, and that's, I think, the most important way to look at this, the process, because everyone is so individual, and there's certain things that work for people that don't work for me, and that's okay. It's all okay. Everything's okay, because it's what is. And that's like the most important, if that makes even any sense. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I also notice it a lot among spiritual people. Huh, babe? Like among spiritual people, there's like, well, I read this article and discovered this unfortunate deception, that's been perpetrated by the mainstream media, and therefore I'm going to make it my job to tell everybody that they shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
And there's just a lot of that I see, especially
in like the media, like propaganda, all that BS that's
I wasn't really mean. I meant like people. People will like read something.
I know,
but
I'm saying, but that I'm referring to, that's a big one that people, they find that and they just purge that on other people, saying like, become aware of this, it's so important, and then they kind of shove it down people's throat in almost an aggressive way, and that just shuts people off. That turns people off from that. In fact, you're not even helping them, you're actually hindering their ability to become aware of that, because when you're too aggressive with your information, you shut people out. People don't want to hear it, and then when they possibly could, come into that information on their own terms in a non-aggressive way, they may not even pay attention to that, because they'll remember like, oh yeah, so-and-so said this about whatever it is, and I didn't like what they had to say, so I'm just gonna like not even read that article that possibly could have helped them a lot. What?
Yeah, I can see that. I can see you're a little passionate about that issue.
What's up, buddy? We got a naked baby coming. Sorry.
But it's not easy. It's not easy to be accepting.
I'll be
It's
right
not
back.
easy to be accepting of other people's beliefs, religions, life choices. It's just sometimes there's a bit of a battle with ourselves not to judge overtly. Sometimes we have our judgments, but it can take a real strength to just bite our tongue.
Yes.
But
Yes, because most of the information that we come into is it hits us to our core, so it's hard not.
baby on the fritz.
Because we're trying.
But I believe that the best approach is just to lead by example. That's what I always say. When you lead by example, people notice that, and it's people like to come to their own conclusions and their own findings and their own self-discoveries rather than have, a good therapist. They don't just tell you. A good therapist can probably read their patients very well and say, wow, they have issues with their mother, obviously, they have issues with their blah, 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 but they try to help the patients come to their own conclusion. So I have found the best way to help someone, it's not to tell them they must do what I'm doing right now in this moment. Rather, it's to be open and sense where they're at and maybe help them get to that next step in their life, whether it's, even if it's like way down the staircase from where I'm at. It's we have all the time in eternity to climb these stairs, and we're all going to do it at our own pace, and there's different benefits to going at it slow or fast, and it's all just individual. But again, that's all just talk. It's not easy. It's not easy to actually put that into practice. I have to struggle because I see a lot of things that annoy me. A lot of people saying things that maybe indicate that I perceive they're making a mistake or doing something that I think they could do better. And there's like the aggravation inside, but I try to fight against that and try to just not say anything.
Yeah.
Usually.
Not to me, not when I'm going through something, but with your clients, yeah.
Or not even the clients, just people in general.
Yeah, and it's challenging. What helps me the most is just knowing that everyone's life journey is an okay experience to have for them and for us. And a lot of times I find that I learn a lot about myself from people that maybe aren't going through this process in the same way that we are,
Right. That's what I say.
I see oh, you know what? That triggered me.
Why?
Why did that trigger me? And then I kind of try to figure out what exactly was the purpose of that. What was the message there, which annoys me when you do that.
What do you mean?
Like when I had the flat tires.
Yeah, as I said, soulmate type relationships, it's real easy to see each other's flaws or when their ego is flared up. And
my ego never flares up.
Mine either, actually, so we're not really people to ask. But we tend to, all the advice we just shared with you, we tend to not really apply when it comes to each other. But that can have its benefits as well, because I'll be doing something, in an egoic manner or whatever, and she'll totally call me out on it, and it'll piss me off in the moment. But then it still in the end will help me. It'll bring to my attention that, you know what, Vic, I trust her judgment, and it helps me. And same with her. She had this issue with the fleas. I think we already talked about that.
Do we have to go back there?
No,
really?
see exactly. People don't like that when you just start talking about their problems. She could create a whole list of all mine right now, so neither of us are perfect.
Yeah, well, with the fleas situation, it was something that, I realized was not even my own issue. It was something that I absorbed from my mom, who absorbed it from her mom, and it was just a belief that I didn't even come into realization about until I was actually speaking with someone who had nothing to do with and had no idea what we were dealing, the fleas situation at all. She didn't even know anything about it, and she made one little comment, and it I was like, oh, yep, that's why. But he says, what do you think this is all about? And then I get pissed off and I'm like, shut up.
Right, just sort of like what she was saying, when I was forceful with her, it almost caused her to like.
I didn't even think about it.
She was like, you know what? I'm not.
I'm done.
I'm not going to give you the satisfaction of pinpointing my issues. So there is no issue, buddy. Going back to earlier in the conversation, there's something I was going to say to end this off. Shoot, what was it?
Maya.
Oh yeah, just to kind of elaborate on what she said. A lot of times, like the Ascension related manifestations of our issues, like for her, we got fleas, and it's, you get fleas sometimes. No, I didn't like them, but I wasn't that bug. But it drove her
no pun
nuts.
intended.
She was going nuts, and I do that with other things. But anyway, a lot of those issues that are sort of at the core of why the fleas were attracted into our lives stem from our parents' own issues. That really, it's not something we necessarily learned by like literal experience.
He doesn't want to be with me.
Oftentimes it's just we absorb their attitudes towards it, and they might have had a go what?
Well, I was just going to say I hadn't even thought of it, but I was listening to this audio book called Warrior Goddess Training. And one of the things that she was saying was that she had this behavior. She could not pinpoint why she kept having it, and she realized that it was something she absorbed from her grandmother, who had been dead for many years. And in fact, she didn't even really know her that well. If I hadn't have come across that, I would never have realized this flea issue.
I'm gonna turn this off and come back to it. Maybe it's like the lighting's all messed up. You see how it's like dark?
Yeah, because we're in the shade and the sun just kind of moves.
We'll be back. So as I'm filming today, I uploaded a video about manifestation blocks. Another huge block I've become aware that I bet a lot of you can relate is you discover that you have a sense or a lack of self-worthiness. Like you want to be abundant, you want to be free, you want to be happy, you want to have a soulmate relationship, but you as you awaken, you become aware of like the deep core issues, and one of them is like, wow, there's part of me that feels like I don't deserve that. Right, babe?
Right.
We were just talking about that, so I figured I'd bring you all in for the combo. So what were you saying? She had someone ask her on the awakening group.
Well, it wasn't asking me specifically, but it was someone had just mentioned, like, how do you deal with feelings of not being worthy of love? And I commented, but basically it was, you have to kind of go straight to the source. And for me personally, that was a very challenging issue to overcome, because it was so deep rooted in my being that I realized that I had never actually truly felt worthy of love ever until the last like few years of my life, and I had to do,
it was like
I
it's
had
not
to
like
deep down find what the issue was, and really what I found was that it wasn't actually an issue of mine. It was something that I had absorbed from my mom, who felt that way and projected that onto me, and it was her mom who projected that onto her, and it was like this whole big circle of like projection, but it took me years and years upon years of dealing with that and trying to figure it out, and thinking, yes, I've got it, finally I've got it, and then it like would come back, and there'd be another layer to that had to be released and let go of. And
yeah,
was that.
That's good. That's very good. Good, right? That's good stuff. Yeah, that's a lot of people are like, okay, well, how do I have more love? How do I have more self-love? How do I dissolve my parental issues? How do I dissolve, it's like I always use the analogy of a basketball size onion, and there's just a lot of layers. It's a process with many different phases of release and discovery, and then every time you release one of those layers, you get to kind of embody and reclaim more of yourself. And it just it's kind of a fast and slow process, slower than we would like because it's uncomfortable, but in terms of how fast I believe human beings evolved their consciousness in the past, I think it's going like extremely, pretty much as fast as our bodies can take. What was that one thing you did? There was a time when she was doing the I love you affirmation, which you were pretty into.
Yeah, I used to wake up in the morning and look myself in the mirror and say, I love you. And that was incredibly powerful because for the first few weeks I felt like I was lying. And I noticed that I wasn't even looking myself in the eye. I was just looking at my face, like in the mirror. And once I finally started like looking myself in the eye, then it was like, ooh, wow, okay. Yeah, I actually do. Like I really do love myself.
Yeah, that's a powerful thing. I have my clients sometimes do affirmations in the mirror, and sometimes they'll say they feel really, really strange doing it, like looking. A lot of people don't ever look themselves dead in the eyes and like peer into their soul, especially, and then go ahead and say something really positive.
Mm-hmm.
I will recommend affirmations sometimes, not as a way of training your subconscious, although that is effective in another regard, but rather to bring to the surface all of the conflicting beliefs that you have. Like if I say I love you in the mirror, I might feel horrible. It might bring to the surface all the issues that contradict this affirmation, which is uncomfortable and a little bit, like she said, it was hard to do. It's not easy, but very profound. It can really heal you a lot. It can, again, make you aware of a lot of that stuff.
Right, yeah, and you can realize, like, if you do a lot of negative self-talk, it brings that to light. Like, you realize, like, wow, I never say anything nice to myself. Mm-hmm. And that actually physically, like, deteriorates your being. Like, if you're just constantly speaking negatively to yourself. And I was going to say something else, too, but I forgot now.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I can't think of what it was.
Yeah, I found there's a lot of people, including myself, are just so hard on themselves. Sometimes I'll work with someone and they'll be like, they'll list a whole bunch of things they're struggling with, and then they'll sort of feel like they're doing bad or failing. And I'm like, listen, what if I was to call you and list all of those things I'm struggling with? What would you say to me? You'd be like, Vic, dude, you're fine, man. You're doing the best you can. You're doing a good job. Ooh, don't be hard on yourself, man. But we don't talk. We don't relate that way with ourselves, and it's for most people, it's an unconscious thing. They're not aware that they're talking smack to themselves and degrading themselves and verbally abusing themselves. It's a very sad. I feel like sad just talking about it.
Yeah, I think especially too. Not that men don't experience it as well, but I think women a lot of times will be like, oh God, my hair looks like shit today, but instead of saying, oh, you know what, it just doesn't look its best, but it's a new day, there's two ways you can say the same thing. One of them is incredibly negative and hurtful to yourself, and the other one is just stating a fact that's maybe not as, detrimental to your being.
We've been waiting in this line for a long time.
Well, another park ranger just drove by with its lights on, so something obviously happened.
Oh well, we were in the long line, this length of time before coming through the first time. We're like waiting to go through this like mile-long tunnel through the mountain. Pretty cool. It's scary.
It's not really that scary.
It's not that scary.
It's not even that long either. It's 1 mile. That's not that long.
Well, I don't often travel a mile deep into mountains. Yeah. So anyway, babe, you want to just conclude this? Anything else you want to add? I think we've talked about a lot of different things. Essential messages, it's a process. You're all doing your best. And that's all you can really expect of yourself. And it's not like, what's the quick fix? What are the 3 things that'll cure me of it? It's more like allowing this ascension process to bring to light all the stuff that you've been stuffing, and then facing it with courage, and then allowing yourself to kind of heal and transcend it. And this is something that's just kind of happening on its own anyway. But we could suffer a lot less, again, by sort of acknowledging that we are in a process, we are in a transition, and that the transformation itself is a little bit icky, right?
Yeah, it's challenging, yeah, at times. And it's incredibly challenging at times. But, you know, this guy's getting out of his car to look around.
Yeah. Okay, we're gonna go see what's going on. We've been stalled here quite a while.
I hope
see you guys.
Okay.
Okay, guys, we'll see you next time. Thank you for watching. Thank you for all the likes and the lovely comments you guys leave. It's so cool and so nice to see. It's fun doing these videos. Talk to you next time. Namaste.